Evolution.org episode 651 is coming your way. Today we have a special episode. We're going to have an interview with EVO brother Swcc. And look, SW, he is an absolute beast. He's 30 years old. He's running a hell of a cycle. He is 110 kilograms, 170 centimeters tall. He is an absolute beast. And he's prepping for a show. So it's going to be a really, really good episode. First, to remind everyone, we are on Apple, we are on Spotify. Smash the like button. If you like our content, we're so different than other podcasts. We're a community. This is a community podcast. So if you're listening to this, you're part of the community. This is your podcast. This isn't my podcast. This isn't Mobster's podcast. This is your podcast. So everybody out there, this is a community podcast. So support the podcast and join the podcast. We would love to hear your comments as well in the comments sections. So let's start it. How you doing, SWCC? I know it's super early where you're at. We appreciate you coming on this early.
No, I'm doing very well, thank you, mate. And I know, like you mentioned, it is 6 a.m, but believe it or not, my day starts at 3. So 6 o'clock isn't actually terribly early for me. So I've already got client check-ins mostly done and my cardio done and a meal in. So I'm good to go, mate. Thank you.
All right, Mobster.
I've just seen that he did the cardio at 3:30 this morning on one of his log entries. Listen, Steve mentioned the community, and I've touched upon this on recent shows. We can't do shows like this without guests like SWCC coming on and being a part of that and putting this information out there into the internet for you guys to listen to entertain you, but hopefully also to educate you. Something I've said on recent podcasts like this is that we have always, for a long time, had a kind of community established on evolutionary in our family of forums. But in the last, I'm going to say 8 months as we do this show, that's grown into something else. And the addiction episodes, the guest episodes, all that kind of stuff has made our community absolutely huge. So we want to make a special effort, myself, Steve, the bosses of the forum, the moderators of the forum, but the listeners and the other members of the forum and that community, to make sure that we thank you for being on here, to doing what you're doing today, because it will make a difference. It will educate, it will entertain, and we can't do these shows without you. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Lovely to be here. Thank you for the invite, sir.
So let's get into it. First of all, SW, tell us, you're 30 years old. You're going to be 31 coming up in 2026. Tell us how you got into bodybuilding so seriously at such a young age. Because a lot of people out there, they get into bodybuilding maybe at 25. I know I got into bodybuilding, as a teenager. I started weight training, but bodybuilding, I didn't really start getting deep into it till I was like in my very late 20s. So a lot of people don't really get deep into bodybuilding so young. What intrigued you so much? And how old were you when you first picked up a weight? And how old were you when you first really decided, you know what, I want to compete and I want to be the very best?
Okay, well, without making this too long a wind of a story, it all really starts at the very beginning, which will kind of tick off a few boxes about my past, my history, and hopefully as well will be a great way to let the listeners get a little bit of motivation and some inspiration on how you can turn your life around. So my entire journey started when I was diagnosed with panic disorder when I was 11 years old. I also developed an eating disorder at that time. So this was due to the fact that my home life was very rough. I had my parents divorcing and I had a lot of shit going on. So I found control through food, meaning that my eating disorder wasn't because I felt like I was fat or I didn't like the way I looked. It was simply because I needed something in my life that I could control in a time where I had no control of anything else. Like I said, my parents splitting, etc. So anyways, I dealt with the eating disorder for probably about a year and a half. Panic attacks, things like that, all these things that come along with developing as a young man, especially in, a very chaotic environment. Then one day I had a talk with my father and he basically cried and he told me that he was worried I was going to die. I then essentially broke down with him then and there, and I knew that I needed to change something or I wasn't going to be here much longer. From that point onwards, I looked up on the internet how to gain weight, right? Because what I wanted to do was I wanted to gain weight, but I didn't want it to just be fat. I wanted to go, you know what, like I now want to be, you know, big and in shape and potentially also, you know, get more attention and positive attention from my school peers, which at the time I was a bit of a loner due to my panic disorder and my eating disorder. So fast forward a couple of weeks, and I started to look on YouTube, and I found Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler, and from that point there, I was hooked. I got my friend's father, who was into bodybuilding at the time, to write me up a little program. I got my dad to buy me some weights for my birthday. Must have been my 12th birthday, and then I started to hook in after school every day on the old Ronnie Coleman split, the 6 day a week. You know, push pull legs off routine, and I started to eat again, and I started to gain weight and gain muscle. And over the course of a couple of years, I essentially turned my addiction to control into an addiction in a good way to the whole bodybuilding thing, because I truly can say in my heart of hearts that I love bodybuilding. It is my entire life. I would never do something so passionately if I didn't, you know, enjoy it
Yeah.
as much as I do. And so therefore I kept going until I was about the age of 17. So at that point I'd been lifting for about 5 years now. Um, Keeping in mind too, I'd even started researching PEDs very young as well. I didn't ever touch any PEDs until I was 25, but started reading about them from about the age of 15. So I truly dived headfirst into the whole realm of bodybuilding and the enhanced side 10 years before I even touched anything. So my 17th birthday rocks around. I get a gym membership and I start going to an actual gym. That then gave me a whole nother level of, you know, progress, because now I have access to all these proper machines. Because in my bedroom, all I had was some dumbbells, a bench, and, you know,
Yeah.
a barbell. So now I'm 17 years old. I'm training at a commercial gym. I'm loving it. It was one of the very first Anytime Fitnesses in my hometown here, and it was amazing. The culture and the people involved in bodybuilding were all amazing. There was even another pro bodybuilder. Well, he's now a pro bodybuilder in Australia, and he trained there. And I watched him kind of come up from an amateur to becoming a pro bodybuilder. Now, at the age of 15, by the way, is when I started working. I did 4 years as an apprentice bricklayer, which you may or may not know is a very fucking hard job. And then I then did, straight after that, another 4 years as an apprentice boilermaker, which once again is a very hard job. So that's welding, fabricating, things like that. So that's a little bit into how my mindset has become so like steel like, to the point where I cannot be broken, due to the simple fact that my entire, well, more than half my life I've just basically been dragged through shit, worked incredibly hard jobs, and it's all paid off now because my mindset is unbreakable. So
So,
at the age
sorry,
of, oops,
just
sorry,
want to just jump in for a very quick second, mate. Sorry.
of course.
Something that someone said to me this morning, I think applies to you here, where you can't, I can't, you can't imagine yourself not doing this.
No, I definitely cannot, because I need to be challenged each and every single day. A day
Mm.
where I do not feel like I have pushed myself in the
Yeah,
direction of something that I really want is a day to me that
yeah.
is wasted. Like there's been a couple of times where I've been hospitalized, which I can also talk about a bit later as well. I had a couple of surgeries, and that was a nightmare. Being told that I can't leave a hospital for a few days, I was going absolutely mental.
Is this anorexia that you went through? And how much did you weigh at your least?
So as an 11-year-old, I believe I got down to my lowest of about 35 kilos, which is about 80 pounds.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keeping in mind I was a fat kid as well. So prior to that, I was probably more like
Mhm.
60, 70 kilos, which is, you know, 130, 40 pounds.
So the eating disorder was like anorexia, where you would throw up anything you ate. What was that?
No, that's bulimia.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So mine was simply just about control. So I figured that, you know what, if I can't control my environment, I can at least control what I put into my mouth. And That's obviously a psychological thing. You can't necessarily explain it sometimes. It's just a
Gotcha.
thing.
Okay.
Looking back on it, obviously, I think it's quite silly, but still, it's all about control. And as you know, bodybuilders, we're all OCD in some degree.
Yes. We definitely
Yes,
like
you
our
have to be.
control.
You have to be. You have to be driven and obsessed to do stuff that gets you down to crazy percentage of body fat. You have to be to go to the gym when you're tired, you're achy, other
Yeah.
shit's going on. You
When you
have to
get
be.
injured, what do you do as a bodybuilder? That's like the
Yeah,
most
carry on.
aggressive. I know someone recently they tore their shoulder. The doctor said you can't lift for 6 months, 6 weeks, and they got
Yeah.
depressed. Like they were depressed. Like you would think their dog died or something. It's like, dude, chill. You'll be back in 6 weeks. I mean,
Mm.
finding something else. But that's how bodybuilders think for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that was to my next point was I started actually competing in powerlifting when I was 20 years old. So as you can imagine, as I got older and my career in powerlifting progressed, I definitely did experience injuries and ended up having a couple of surgeries, believe it or not, which led me to
Wow.
bodybuilding. So I was a very high level powerlifter here in Australia. I was top 10 in my weight class in Australia at one point. I was squatting and deadlifting over 300 kilos, which is 660
Nice.
pounds in the
Yeah.
US. That was at
Yeah.
100 under 100 kilo body weight. I could bench
Nice.
over 210 kilos, which is 450 pounds, all raw.
Mm.
So I was definitely up there in the terms of the powerlifting scene. Obviously, powerlifting is still going to gain you some muscle and whatnot, but I would say subjectively that I looked more like a powerlifter. And even to this day, I still am trying to reverse some of the typical powerlifter stuff that you see in powerlifter turned
The
bodybuilders.
thicker
My waist
waist,
just be
the structure you have, and Steve said it. I wrote down in my notes, and I quote: "This is a nice thing, not an horrible thing. Looks like a proper lump, which is mean with a euphemism from back in the days. Looks like a brick shit house. It means you're thick and muscular looking all over. The only thing that you're going to struggle with from the squatting and from the deadlifting, especially at that level, is the aesthetic with the waist because the obliques are going to thicken up, the spinal erector is going to thicken up, and it takes a fucking long time for the body to go away from that. But I've no doubt that you're working
Yeah.
on your shoulders, you're working on your back width to sort of compensate for that. So yeah, and look, you have the more brutal muscle in your fucking face aesthetic, which some people still fucking like. So people still want competitions looking like that, and you're not even in competition shape and you look like that. So yeah,
So let me just
don't be
mention
knocking it too much.
really quick. If you go on the forum, go on our forums,
Yeah.
evolution.org forums,
Yes.
top right search button, go click that, by member, put in SWCC. That is his name. You'll be able to pull
Mm.
up his posts. And if you want to pull up his log, it's always going to be in his signature. So it's very easy to find. But his log is called Testosterone, Equipoise, Anadrol, GH, Insulin, Retitritride, Cardarine, Season A 2026
It's a
Bodybuilding Log.
mouthful. Yeah.
So you can always find it on there. And if he does future logs and you're listening to this podcast down the line, you'll see this log and you'll see his future logs also always in his signature. So it's very easy to find. So with that, I
Just
said,
about
yeah,
240 pounds today, Steve, 109 kilos,
yeah.
and it's 170 centimeters. I think it's about 5.5
So
foot tall.
I'll give you guys
And
the
jacks,
floor,
jacks.
but
Yeah.
I just want to ask, because I've heard about this a lot. I think Ronnie Coleman was the one who talked about this. Do you think, ironically, that your powerlifting history, because I started out as well as a powerlifter in high school, do you think the powerlifting history that you had when you were much younger
Mm.
has translated into an advantage now as a bodybuilder because it kind of gave you a base, gave you muscle memory, and gave you
Yeah.
something to kind of tap into?
absolutely without a doubt. Because as a powerlifter, you become extremely good at moving, obviously, a load through space that is unsupported, meaning that it's not a machine, it's not locked in. That then translates to, okay, I can now sit on this chest press machine and I can fucking have at it. My mind muscle connection is unbelievable. So when I started training purely for hypertrophy and I ditched all the barbells and things like that because I'll tell you right now, I don't actually train with barbells or dumbbells anymore, other than maybe a curl. Um, when I sit into a machine, I can have at it. I'm talking like, gym pin on the stack plus plates And when I started to really then focus on feeling the muscle and then progressing through load and reps, that's when my
Yep.
body just transformed. So, but definitely, like, I could do some crazy shit as a powerlifter, and that translated massively into especially my legs. Like, I could squat 200 kilos for 20 reps, bare knees as a powerlifter. So you can imagine that when I then jumped on a hack squat, when I started to fully immerse myself in bodybuilding, I'm talking 4, 5, 6, 7 plates per side, deep reps, controlled, and my quads just exploded.
Oh yeah, I would argue, SWCC, that one of your, I mean, it's fickle over listeners, but his outstanding feature is the outer sweep, especially outstanding feature is your quads. Absolutely, fella, no doubt about it. And again, he looks vascular and gnarly now, and he's, I mean, like 14, 20 something weeks. How many weeks are you away from competition? Much later in the year, it's like spring.
Yeah, this Sunday is going to be 13 weeks from the first show,
Yeah,
which is a
yes,
PCA show, and then
yep,
14 weeks for the next one, then 15 and 16 to the next two, and then I believe 18 from nationals, which is a pro
yep.
qualifier. Where I never have been one to necessarily give much of a fuck about a pro card, but I certainly wouldn't say no if I did win. So yes,
So
but
what do you
look, this.
have to do to get the pro card at this competition? Because I know they changed the rules a lot. I know it used to be a lot easier in America or in Canada to get a pro card. Now they made it much harder post pandemic because bodybuilding really has blown up in North America. Is it the same way in Australia? Do you have to get first place in the show, or do you have to just get first place in your specific category? How does that work?
Yeah.
Yeah, so here in Australia, it's very, very fucking hard to get a pro card. There's only basically 2 shows per year where you can get a pro card, and only one winner is announced. So there's basically, in bodybuilding, open bodybuilding, there's 2 pro cards given per year. So you need to win your class, and then you need to win the overall of that show. And like I said, there's only one overall show twice per year, season A and season C. And there is a season B, but they've made that as a natural quote unquote show.
So they made it
Sorry,
harder,
Steve.
yeah.
Just to jump in here, Steve. We have the similar situation. We've got the PCA here as well. We've got a similar situation here in the UK where I believe it used to be 1. I think it's increased to 2, and it might be. This is across all the associations, especially in the open categories. I think we might have 5 now, and that includes some of the female classes and classic classes. You can have that in a single American show like the Texas Pro. So you are having one fucking show in the States, what we have across all our associations to send people over, say, to the Olympia, any class, 5. And Lee Priest is a great example, SWCC, so I'm sure you know. He could have had his pro card when he was 19, and they wouldn't give it to him for 2 fucking years, and he was pro class ready. So that's how tight it can be, even with the allowing for the population size, etc. It's much, much harder in Australia to get there. But I think, just to be nice to SWCC, I've been at a high level in what I've done. And to me, it is a measure of where you are and what you do and the time and the fucking effort and the psyching and the being hungry and all the rest of that stuff and the struggles and the suffering that you need to do. So, yeah, listen, as you said, you don't need one, but it'll be a fucking nice measure of where you are and probably push you to go to the next level and beyond where you might go in the future as well.
Yeah, of course. And I tell everybody that I don't actually chase a pro card, I chase a pro lifestyle. Everything that I do during my day is
Yes.
acted in a way of a professional bodybuilder. Whether I have a
Yes.
card or not will not change what I do from the minute I wake up to the minute I go to bed. So to me, it doesn't particularly matter. If anything, I would rather be a pro physique caliber, have the pro lifestyle before I got the card anyway, because I feel sometimes guys just either get blessed with one or they get one before they're ready.
And then they
And what
get
they don't
lazy.
realize,
Yeah.
and they don't
Or
realize
they
that they're
don't
now at the
understand the
bottom of the rung
value.
again.
Yes. They don't even understand the value. If you worked really, really fucking hard and you didn't get it 6 times and then you got it on the 7th time, you would fucking love it. You're absolutely going to love it. And I agree exactly what you just said. I actually said same thing to someone else. Start today living like you're a pro already. Make money from the sport, which I know you do. Train like you're a pro when you go to the gym, which you fucking do. Eat, sleep, recover like a pro. That's how a person who's not a pro becomes a pro. And then I've literally known strongmen, don't go on too much, but strongmen who were at the world's strongest man level. I've mentioned this fella multiple times. I was earning more money from the sport than he was, and he was on the world's strongest man stage, and I wasn't, because my attitude was like a pro from day one, or certainly at that particular point. He was in he qualified for the world's strongest man, and I believe I earned 7,000 UK more than he did the same year that he was a quote unquote professional strongman, because he didn't put himself out there like a pro. He wasn't thinking like a pro. So yeah, absolutely. So again,
Right.
listeners, just for your benefit, think that, live it, do it, and especially if you have the genetics in your blood.
So on that subject, while we're on that too, what are you using this as SWCC? Are you a coach? It sounds like you're coaching a lot. I know we have several guys on the forum who coach. It sounds like you do that personal training. Are you looking to turn this into a big social media following to get lots of endorsements and stuff like that? What is the end game, or is this just something you want to accomplish just to accomplish it?
So this is a little bit multifactorial, but I will just start by saying I absolutely fucking hate social media. I'll be honest, I do. But I am also very intelligent with my money, and I understand that bodybuilding will not make you money. Social media, however, will. I have clients that I would never have gotten had I not put myself out there on social media. So I understand the importance of it. My end goal with the bodybuilding and the logs and the recording everything and showing people what I do all comes from a place of genuine passion for the sport and wanting to help others. I believe that my time as a personal trainer and everything all stems from the fact that I want to help people. But once again, like I said, I need to make money. I have to eat. And I have been lucky enough that people have entrusted me to take care of their diet, their training, their nutrition. And I'm now at a point where I basically coach full time. I was also smart enough when I was young to invest all my money that I earned from my trades when I was young. So I'm in a very good position now where I have the opportunity to live like a pro bodybuilder, even if I'm not one. And that's a mistake a lot of guys make. They'll send themselves broke to pay for fucking growth
Yes,
hormone and
yes,
not even realize that bodybuilding is just a small part of life. There's life after bodybuilding. And if you don't think about that, then you're going to be fucked when you're 40 or 50 and you can no longer do the sport and you have no money, no family, no friends, and nothing to show for it.
Yeah, that's why athletes usually go bankrupt because they spend so much money, whether you're playing football, soccer, basketball,
yep,
anything. These guys make tens of millions of dollars and then they file bankruptcy because they spend so much money while they're making the money. And then when they stop making the money's gone and they have no more money coming in, but they still have that lifestyle where they're spending, 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 and they end up having nothing left. And all the money that they gave away to their friends, their family and all that stuff, they go back to their friends and family and say, "Hey guys, can I borrow some money?" And they're like, "Oh, sorry, we don't have money either." So what you said there is really really good, very very good to hear. Yeah.
absolutely. Just as advice for listeners, and I said this to Steve in the pre-show, I've chased a buck, and I've even had young people training here during COVID, and we actually ended up getting them a job, earning the equivalent of 3,000 US a week, Steve, on the railways. And I said, listen, do the bodybuilding thing, absolutely. I can't say you shouldn't. You're in the gym with me right now, but prioritize money in the bank and your future, and then do that 4 days a week. Do as hard as you can, 12-hour days, whatever, 4 days a week. And then 3 days a week, do the bodybuilding thing. And if it takes off, great. But if it doesn't, your bills are paid, your rent's paid, your food's paid, you can put some money in your pension, your YKK, whatever the fuck it is the Americans do. So listen, that's just for the younger listeners. We all want to do championship stuff. We all want pro cars. We want to be crazy. We all want to make money from the sport. But do the sensible shit first. And then if you get lucky and if you put the work in and it happens, awesome. We'll have you fucking back on the show to tell us how it happened.
Yeah, and that would be one of my biggest messages to the audience as well. If you're young, if you're
Yeah.
looking to get in the sport, you need money. You have to. So prioritize that, and then that's how you're going to make bodybuilding work for you.
Or get a rich girlfriend, but that's the big trade secret. Listen, one of the things that we talked about in the pre-show with SWCC, and I want to touch upon this a little bit now, Steve. and not everything because it's a huge fucking list. Like, but we do a little bit of pre-show research. We
Yeah.
talked to SWCC about this. The list
Yeah.
of
So, yeah. So,
PEDs and or supplements is
so let's make, yeah,
huge.
let's start
Yeah,
with the
so let's
three.
do a couple of them. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, let's start with the steroid, the first three steroids. 1,000 milligrams test E divided daily, 60 milligrams of EQ weekly, and 50
Yes.
milligram anadrol daily. So tell us the method to the madness of running a gram a test, just 60 milligrams of EQ weekly, and then a pretty good dosage of anadrol daily, 50 milligrams. What is the method to the madness of that?
So, believe it or not, that was only for about 3 weeks. Okay. So, finishing up season C last year, I dropped back down to just a cruise dose of 250 milligrams of testosterone. I ran that for 10 weeks post show. I put on probably about 9 to 10 kilos of pretty much all lean mass just from being so sucked down from my show. I then did 3 weeks of the 1,000 milligrams of test, the 50 anadrol per day, and the 60 milligrams of EQ. And then I went, you know what? I'm still like 18 weeks out here. I don't need to be doing this. So I dropped back down to 250 milligrams of test, which I had been doing for about 3 weeks. And then as of simply a week ago, I've now bumped back up to 500 milligrams of test, 30 milligrams of EQ, and I am also running 20 milligrams of nandrolone per day.
So the AQ, that's per week, right?
Correct. And that's just for estradiol management.
Okay.
Since I have very low body fat and I also don't appear to be a high aromatizer, 60 milligrams of equipoise covers me fully for a gram a test. My estradiol came back at about 180, which is just a tiny bit above the upper end range here in Australia.
I swear the Australians are so different than the Americans because with the Americans that would never happen with the estrogen like equipoise. We've never in America used equipoise to combat estrogen. So that's definitely there's something with you guys' genetics that's so different than Americans. It's got to be the food quality. It's got to be the Americans are just fatter. It's got to
I
be,
think it's the lifestyle, Steve, because the
maybe,
genetic
yeah.
background of Australians is the same as the
But
genetic
the food
backgrounds of
quality in
Americans.
Australia is so much better. My goodness, the government doesn't even allow poor quality food. You know,
Yes.
it's completely different than we could see. You can go on the logs and see the way even
Yes.
Americans who
Yes.
eat
Yes.
really
Yes.
clean
Food. Yeah.
still eat so much worse than the Australians. So it's completely different with the food. So it's got to be that. It's got to be the food quality, maybe a little genetics too. Do you notice that too, SW, if you're dealing with American clients?
Yeah, look, Australians, we are definitely blessed to have, um, a much cleaner variety of foods here, simply because I think our farming culture is a lot bigger. So, a lot of the produce and the fruits and vegetables that even maybe you guys get probably come from here. So it's just a
Yes.
matter of, geography. We have all that fresh fruit, that good grains and the good meats here. So we simply just have more access to it, and it's cheaper probably too.
So yeah, so
So
the
obviously,
things I was gonna say the things we grow here are corn and wheat and soybeans. You see what I'm saying? You guys grow the fresh fruits and vegetables. Does that make sense? So that's I think that's the big difference is that like literally like the crops that we're eating are shitty for us, and the crops that you guys are eating are full of vitamins and micronutrients and stuff.
Some
So that
some
makes
of it's
sense to me.
cultural, Steve. The whole Australian kind of almost a prope, a joke, is the throw another shrimp on the barbie, but it'll be fresh shrimp. It's fresh meat. It is corn, but it's all fucking done on a barbecue. It's not hot dogs. It's not 47 different kinds of cheese on your burger. It's just stuff like that, mate. And and
no, no,
and,
that's
and even
so
yeah, I mean
correct.
the Australians have also got this thing, and this is just because I looked at this once a long time ago. People all think that Australia is either the beaches or the desert. They've got more mountains in Australia than Switzerland. It's weird. They got very diverse. You've got the whole sort of semi-tropical thing at the top that we spoke
Yeah.
about with another listener. So it's very diverse. And the only other thing is, I wouldn't want to fucking ship ice cream 3,000 miles across country on a fucking road train. So when I get my food delivered, I'm just going to buy the stuff that I need, not the crap that I might want to eat. Even here in the UK, we joked about this pre-show with it being cold and rainy. We're going to eat more carbs because it's cold and fucking rainy. It's 44 fucking degrees, listeners, this morning. for SWCC. That's what he trained in this morning.
Celsius.
That's over 100 degrees
Yeah,
Fahrenheit.
111 Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not going to be eating fucking crap and hot dogs and whatever the fucking that. You're going to eat fresh and healthy. You have to. You've got no fucking choice. Otherwise, you just sweat like a bastard. So yeah,
So let's talk
absolutely.
about the growth hormone and insulin that you're using, because you start on this one with 15 IU GH split, 10 IU PM, 5 IU pre-train. Maybe talk a little bit about the method to that, and then the 20 IU of the Atlantis in the AM, and then the Nova Rapid 3 times a day, 10 IU. So you're really hitting the GH and the insulin really, really. That's another thing that's different about the Australians. You guys are much more aggressive on growth hormone. The Americans aren't as aggressive on the growth hormone. So tell us a little bit about the growth hormone and insulin ratios and the method of using the insulin the way you're using it and the growth hormone the way you're using it.
Sure. So right now, obviously, due to being closer to the show, my insulin requirements have dropped due to the fact that I'm eating a little bit less, and I obviously am getting more insulin sensitivity as body fat comes off. So currently, it's 10 IUs of Lantus and 5 IUs of Nova Rapid 3 times a day. Growth hormone is still at the 10 IU pre-bed and 5 IU pre-training. Now, the reason for this is because I'm a firm believer that after a certain point, the amount of growth hormone that you inject in one bolus, I believe, would still be best split up. I wouldn't split up any more than twice a day due to the fact that I have had some lengthy conversations with some very smart people in the industry. Now, they believe that when growth hormone is administered, you need to give it some time to return back down to baseline so that the next dosage that you take isn't affected in terms of its ability to create more IGF. So by splitting it twice per day and making that 12 hours apart, that is far enough away that the next bolus is essentially going to have enough of a spacing to cause another IGF spike, because there appears to be almost like an overlap effect. If you inject GH constantly every few hours, every injection gets you less benefit because there's that period of time where you need it to return back to baseline, similar to how muscle protein synthesis works. If muscle
Isn't there,
protein
sorry,
synthesis
SWCC, I don't want to interrupt you, but isn't there an actual thing? I think Steve and I covered this on one show, Steve, where we said nature literally has you 2 peaks of growth hormone per day. That's literally what happens in normally when you get up before you go to bed. I believe those are the 2 peaks. Your training and your food will affect that a little bit, but you're also mimicking nature. So you're enhancing nature when you do it the way that you're doing, rather than, as some people think logically, but they're wrong, this constant trickle should work better. No, it doesn't. Mimic what nature does and then enhance what nature does. That's exactly what you're doing.
Exactly right. Similar to what I was going to say about the muscle protein synthesis. If it was the case that more was better, we would eat every hour a protein feeding. But we know it doesn't work like that because muscle protein synthesis needs to return to baseline so that the next protein bolus can then shoot MPS up again. Now, in terms of why I split my dosage up like that as well, like I said, live the bodybuilding lifestyle like a professional. So I also have it where my second dose of growth hormone 12 hours later is also pre-workout. That pre-workout dose of growth hormone, along with my pre-workout meal, is going to cause a temporary insulin resistance. Okay, that's just simply what happens when we inject growth hormone. We inject growth hormone, we become temporarily insulin resistant because of the fact that we have injected it, our blood glucose rises, etc. I then pair that with a pre-workout insulin dose, which manages that. And then when the IGF peaks from that second dose, insulin is also in the picture to amplify that. That means when I've done training, IGF has peaked again, insulin has kept blood glucose shuttled into the muscle, and it's kind of like a 1 + 1 = 3 effect.
And that's kind of the method and the madness of how you're able to really build this gigantic muscle mass that
I'm
wouldn't
going to
be
say, Steve,
possible.
Milos Sarcev once did a proper conversational piece way back in the day, and he'll still do it now if he's asked, where he would have his athletes fuel up on, I think, with some sort of applesauce, and they were doing growth, and they were doing insulin, and then he would do giant sets to kind of drain their glycogen stores, and then the response rate after the workout was they would soak up protein like motherfuckers, and the insulin would absolutely go into overdrive in terms of the effect. But what most people do is they kind of fuck it up with the constant thing or the constant feeding thing, and all that happens is they get fat as fuck. Growth hormones great for tissue repair, but they get fat as fuck. If you're doing what SWCC is you're doing this almost as a sort of gym prep, and then you go into the gym and just absolutely smash yourself, completely deplete, and then get an absolute fucking amazing response to, like a sponge, soaking all this stuff up and blowing the fuck up and putting on loads more muscle and so on. So this is where the science stuff comes in when we talk about bodybuilding being a science as much as a sport, because you need to understand these things. But also SWCC is what's working for you.
So how did you, while we're on this subject, SW, how did you learn the science behind this? Was it through personal trial and error? Was it through, you had maybe a mentor? Was it through the forum? Was it through, how did you get all this knowledge on this and how to manipulate the body the way you're able to?
So, like I mentioned, I started researching performance enhancement when I was very, very young. And as you can imagine, that entails thousands of hours of videos on YouTube, tons of reading on forums, tons of reading studies, all these kinds of things, and then obviously years of putting it to practice on myself. So, like I mentioned, by the time I'd ever touched an anabolic, I could already have someone ask me pretty much anything about AAS, insulin, growth hormone, and I'd have a pretty solid answer for them, which is quite strange to say for someone who had never actually used them themselves. So, and then once I'd obviously started using them and putting these practices into play, I could tell very quickly what was and wasn't working and what was and wasn't bullshit. But I will also say one last thing is, I'm going to be completely honest. I have a very intellectual view on these things. When something interests me, I can be very fucking good at becoming very knowledgeable at that subject. Yes. I'm not saying that in arrogance or that I'm the smartest person in the world. I'm just saying that once I become fixated on something, I can become literally almost a fucking expert in that field.
I'm the same way, man. I'm the same way.
Yeah, I think we all are. Yeah. We all are. We have to be by necessity.
Yeah, that's why they have me do this podcast, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
because it's like, who are we going to have to do a podcast like this? We're going to have the guy.
Well, Steve and I will argue about logic. We'll argue about nature. We've changed our minds on subjects on these shows. We've had people like you come on. Let me ask you a better question, I think. What have you changed in recent years? Because you're talking about information you soaked up when you was a teenager to get to where you are now. What's new to you? What have you learned recently that's changed your physique a little bit as well? Just as, again, a thing for listeners maybe to get into their teeth into.
Well, as you know, it goes in circles. But I would say the biggest thing is, what is ruining people these days is social media in terms of training. You've got all these fucking knobheads worrying about fatigue and fucking, doing Keenan flaps and shit like that.
Science basically need to be taken out and shot.
It does. So if anyone wants any proof, look at me on the forums, and then I'm telling you right now, I go into the gym and I fucking train like a maniac. Yes. I'm not sitting there worrying about fatigue or worrying about, this high rep set is going to cause, more damage than this low rep set. No, I go in and I fucking go and go and go until I feel like I have worked the muscle, and then I leave. That's it. There's no more need to overthink about it, okay? So that's what I would say has changed the most, is that, my view on how people train is just simply that. All this science-based shit is just fucking stupid. Yeah. Get in the gym.
I don't even mind it, SWCC, but they're going away from hard work builds muscle. Information like you soaked up from a teenager has enabled you to understand nutrition and PEDs. And that's 40, 50, 60 fucking years old. Something that comes out last week as a study about putting a sleeve on your arm just to isolate the fucking front of fucking part of your shoulder. And you're looking at the cunt and he's got no muscle. And he says, you can't argue with me. I fucking can, but I don't want to because I'll be wasting my fucking time. Fuck off. And then I go back and look at SWCC, and the man, as I said, he's a muscular brick shit house. He's packed with fucking muscle. And he's done that for working his fucking arse off, smashing it in the gym. feeding it and doing the right shit you need to do. It ain't complicated. It's fucking hard work. It's just not
So,
complicated.
looking at your training, let's get on that a little bit, and then maybe
Yeah.
we'll swing back and talk about some of the other stuff that you're taking. But your training split is a push, pull, leg, rest, repeat. You're doing daily cardio, 20 minutes Stairmaster, keeping your beats per minute, 120, 130. Fasted daily cardio, which I'm a big believer in. 12K steps daily, abs daily, vacuums 3 times a day. So, with that, generally, when you're doing the push pull legs, is it consistent with the reps and sets that you're doing, or are you doing less or more maybe on leg day or less or more on a pulling day, etc.?
So here's another thing I think that people overcomplicate. It doesn't have to be the fucking same every day. Sometimes I feel like I have more in me, sometimes I don't. The art of listening to your body has been lost. If you walk
Mm.
into the gym and you're training and you're thinking to yourself, you know what, I am a bit fucking smashed today. Why the fuck would you then push yourself deeper into a hole of recovery? Why not then just go, you know what, I'm going to scale back a little bit today? But I think the problem is people get so dogmatic with their views and they think that they have to stick to this one certain way all the time.
Yeah.
My training has evolved and changed many times over the years. Sometimes I logbook, sometimes I don't. I'll logbook for 6 months. I won't logbook for 6 months. I'll do high reps for a certain amount of time. I'll do
Yeah.
low reps for a certain amount of time. My joints will hurt for a little bit, so I'll change movements. My joints won't hurt,
Yep.
so I'll change movements. So that is an art that I feel is being lost of you just need to listen to your fucking body. It'll tell you.
None of us, you're going to try to get into shape for a competition. That is essentially you peak performance, lowest levels of body fat, and that is impossible for you to do 12 months of the year. You can't go balls out 12 months of the year. It's impossible. I've tried to do it as a teenager and into my early 20s. Fuck that shit. That's just how you get sick and ill and hurt yourself. I would now
Exactly.
go 3 to 4 times a year, and you're doing it. You will need to peak around your 3 or 4 competitions. The rest of the year, you can do other stuff, change the routine, change the reps, take it fucking easy, have an off season, add more muscle, but be a little bit fat, and then peak for you needs to be on fucking stage, and that is a very short 3, 4, 5 week window where you're going to need to be within 90 or 100% of where you need to be. The rest of the year, you don't need to be. So, yeah, absolutely, man.
So let's
Exactly,
talk.
brother.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry. You go.
No, go ahead.
No. My last point on that was just going to say that it all goes in phases, and you need to basically, like they say, when the sun's out, make hay. So if you're
Yes.
feeling really fucking good for 4 to 5 weeks, then take that
Yeah.
as an opportunity to fucking push it.
Yeah.
Okay. You
Yeah.
will eventually hit a wall. That's when you then listen to your body and you back off. Okay. So there doesn't need to be this whole, sitting there and fucking fingering your bum hole, wondering about what the absolute best thing to do year round is. It changes, just like the weather changes, just like your body changes, and
And your
just like,
age. Yeah. Your age, your
exactly right.
situation, your condition,
So
everything. Yeah.
So let's circle back a little bit because we got a lot of requests to talk about some of these compounds. A lot of people want to learn about these, and the Australians are definitely ahead of the Americans when it comes to
Mm.
implementing some of these compounds. I think they're way ahead of you guys in Britain, Mobster, as well. But one
There'll
of
be
them,
some here, but the majority won't be doing this list that he's doing. And I think the Americans that we've got on
yeah,
the
yeah.
form
So
are into half
I
this.
heard,
So you're
yep.
more likely to try some of these protocols
Yeah,
than
yeah.
we are, for
So
sure.
yeah. So let's start with the MOTS-C. You're doing 1 milligram on training
Yeah.
days in the morning. That is the key. Do you think that makes a difference going in the morning? Are you not able to sleep with it if you take it in the evening?
No, it's not necessarily that. It's just that you're thinking about, once again, the body in nature. When we wake up is when we want the most stimulus, the most
Mm,
energy
mm,
production, because over the
mm.
course of the day, obviously, as cortisol drops and we slowly get into that more parasympathetic tone, that's obviously then when that leads into sleep. So it makes the most sense to be using all of your stimulants, all of your mitochondrial upregulation early in the day, and then
Okay.
let that taper down towards the night.
I like it.
Something else, Josh, to jump in here, Steve, and this is more for the listeners as well. I've trained in the evening and I trained in the morning. I prefer the morning, but one of the things I've pointed out, being stimmed to fuck or super focused or whatever else late in the day is why youngsters, especially youngsters, can't sleep at night. And you want sleep and you want to recover. And like I do, I think SWCC trains not just as cardio, but trains relatively early in the day. So why not be focused and energized and everything else you need to be around that time? when you go, we've done the nature stuff, Steve. What happens is,
Yeah.
as he said, with the cortical changes, your testosterone levels, as the fucking sun goes down. We are literally meant to go to bed when the sun goes down.
So let's go
But we
over
stay up and we
some of these others. The Retta, you're only doing 1 milligram a weekly. Did that increase, or are you just keeping it at 1 milligram? And why just 1 milligram?
1 milligram weekly pretty much is going to be a staple for ever. Okay. And
Okay.
obviously, the reason I use it is not for appetite suppression. In fact, I, believe it or not, never get hungry during prep, even 2, 3, 4 weeks out, never hungry. I use it for the insulin sensitivity benefits and
yes,
so all that kind of stuff is what I use it for, especially since I'm using large amounts of growth hormone. It allows me to, one, use less insulin, and
yep.
two, it's almost just like a self-regulating
Yeah.
kind of mechanism. So yeah,
Perfect.
I think that pretty much every bodybuilder who's using growth hormone should be on a low dose of retatrutide.
Do you have any knowledge about the next phase after? Because semaglutide was a single, you had the tirzepatide as the double, you had the Retta as the triple. Do you see a quadruple one coming out? And would that be something you would switch to if it ever came out, or even a quintuple?
Yeah, look, I mean, it all comes down to availability, right? Like, the only reason why we use what we use is because we can simply get our hands on it. You know, if we couldn't get retatrutide because we had to wait for Eli Lilly to release it and they're charging, $1,000 a pen or something for it, we wouldn't even fucking bother,
Yeah.
would we? But the fact that we can get it in a little vial for, $10 from
Mhm.
China, well, so
Yeah.
sure, if they release it,
Yeah.
a
So
quadruple
what I
agonist
mean,
or something.
yeah. So do you
Yep,
think the
yep.
quadruple agonist will blow away the triple agonist if it comes out, or is it going to be kind of close, you think? Is that going to be the next stage where you see in 5 years from now or 10 years from now, people are going to be using a quadruple agonist instead? I'm just curious to hear what you think.
Mm.
Well, look, I mean, obviously, say 10 years ago, before retatrutide even was a thing, right? We
Yeah.
didn't think anything like that could exist. So fast forward 10 years from now, who the fuck knows what's going to exist? There's probably going to be something come along that blows all of this shit away. You know what I mean? So,
What's
um,
interesting, SWCC, is literally our conversations that we've had during the show about echoing and enhancing nature. Is that when Steve and I covered the GLPs, we actually said that the reasons why the Retta was the best is because it literally mimicked three things that already occur in the body. So anything that comes after will probably do the same, but just be an enhancement of what the body already does. And therefore, again, we are mimicking nature, we're enhancing nature. So that kind of thinking, that kind of process, we have
Yeah.
seen, Steve, when we discussed other companies that were talking about bringing out other things. I said, are they doing it because it's me too, or they think adding
Yeah.
something
So
going to be
let's
better, or is the science support that? Yes.
yeah. So let's go to the next one. 50 milligrams of NAD plus daily AM. What does that do for you?
so the NAD works in great synergy with the MOTS-C and all the other things that I'm taking. The NAD is simply put in as a way to open up the bottleneck that comes from upregulating your mitochondria. Mitochondria, when you obviously get them spinning faster and creating more energy and more ATP, there is always going to be a bottleneck somewhere along the way. And one of those bottlenecks is NAD production. So simply by introducing that exogenously, you then open up that bottleneck so it is no longer the rate limiting factor.
So you take it in a supplement form, or you take
No,
it
it's
as
injectable.
okay, but the supplement you think is junk then. You always recommend injectable.
I mean, look, there's other ways to enhance NAD, like NMN supplementation, or I forget the name of the other one. It's kind of skipping my brain at the moment. But I'm always a firm believer of just skipping the middleman and going straight in.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And then the next one on the list here is BPC and TB500. And I'm actually, I've played around with these over the last couple of years. I've had mixed results with them. It just depends. But I can tell you, like recently, because it's fishing season now, and trying to mix fishing with weight training and everything, it's just like all the cardio that I do. It's been a game changer for me, the TB500, and I've been actually going higher on TB500 lately. So, what does the BPC and TB500 do for you? Tell us a little bit about how that's been a game changer for you.
So coming from my powerlifting background, as you can imagine, I have injected fucking shitloads of BPC and TB500. I keep it in now year round at a milligram per day of each, simply just as a safety policy. And aside from that, I do definitely notice that I don't really get sore joints or anything like that. But then lastly, there's also tons of research showing that BPC and TB500 are fantastic for the longevity and preservation of even cardiac muscle, like cardiac tissue, things like that. So, because alongside with everything that I'm doing, there's always in the forefront of my mind of how can I do this as long as possible? And that's where peptides like
So
BPC,
on
TB500
that
come into play.
subject, Steve, you literally just posted, I think, in the last 24 hours about having an ECG. And I actually made a note to the effect of we've had the strength athlete Parod Dwyer passing away, and we've actually talked about health. So let the listeners know why you had the ECG. And again, I'll reference the fact that some athletes, Parod Dwyer, passed away at 40. There are other rumours, but the main one was specific to him having a heart attack at 2:30 in the morning. So, yeah, what was your reason for having the ECG? And of course, you've just touched upon heart health.
My ECG?
Yeah. So you had it for
Yeah,
heart
yeah.
health. You want to see where you are, yeah.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, look, so obviously, like I said, when we're doing this sport, the only way to get
Yeah.
really fucking big is to be able to do this for as long as possible. You can't really get big if you're dead. So the reason for getting the ECG is because, believe it or not, even if there is something wrong, you can correct it if caught early enough. Seeing that I am 30, that is still young enough to cause cardiac remodeling. Now, I know for a fact that my cardiac health is brilliant, and I've had ECGs done before and they've come back perfect, but it's still a good idea to probably get one once per year just to see what your ejection fraction is doing, to see what the thickness of your valves and your heart wall is doing. I know for a fact too that my LV thickness actually decreased once I implemented telmisartan and a CPAP machine. So this is just simply a way of getting data and going, you know what, I'm still on the right track. I'm not killing myself. I don't need to change anything. And that also gives you a very a very good boost mentally, because you may or may not ever go through health anxiety, and that's a great way to fuck up your bodybuilding, is walking around every day worrying that you're going to die.
So the CPAP machine, tell me a little bit about that. When did you start using that? Because you're still a young guy at 30. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of going through life under the assumption that I can, survive on crappy sleep every night and that's normal. And I always tell people it's like, no, it's not normal. You should try to fix whatever is bothering you.
It's
If you have,
almost physical culture's dirty little secret, Steve. The amount of strong men, and I've been that way. I've been over 150
yeah. So let's,
kilograms.
yeah, I
Yes,
was gonna
people
ask.
don't understand that being that big and that muscular or that lean is not healthy. So the heart thing is super important, and getting your sleep with a CPAP machine because you are unusually big or
Yeah.
unusually
So tell
heavy
us
or whatever.
about that. The cost. When did you get it? What changes that it made for you? Did it take time for you to adjust to using it? I don't have one yet, but I'm probably going to get one at some point, once it's financially available to me. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So firstly, I'm going to say that most bodybuilders probably need one. Not even just bodybuilders. Most men walking around, even if they're slightly overweight or due to muscle or fat, probably need a CPAP. If you snore, you probably need a CPAP.
Yes.
Now, we all know that sleep is so crucial for gaining muscle, dropping body fat. There's even been, and once again, I'm not a study guy in terms of every study that I read, I believe, but numerous studies have showed that even everything else accounted for, poor sleep leads to less body fat lost in a diet and less muscle retained in a diet. And obviously, on the flip side, if you're trying to gain muscle, poor sleep will lead to less muscle gained and more fat gained. So fix your sleep is going to be one of the lowest hanging fruits that you can do. Now, a CPAP machine for me, a lot of guys go, oh, don't you need to go to get a sleep study and a doctor for that? No, you don't. With the machines that are out these days, they're all well, one, very accessible. You can get them without a prescription or referral. And secondly, they're all automatic, meaning what I mean by that is they adjust to your breathing at nighttime. They're not just set to one setting. You put these things on and you set it, it will adjust the pressure based off of how you're breathing, whether you stop breathing. So there's actually no need for a quote unquote specialist to set it up for you. They're basically plug and play now. One in Australia here will cost you around about 12 to 1300 Australian dollars, which is probably about 8 to 900 US dollars. And the biggest bit of advice I can get with it is get the nasal pillow. Those are the ones that will just sit under your nostrils, okay? Because the full face mask can be a little bit uncomfortable. Now, you know, the only other thing that I will say about that is, yes, it may take some time to getting used to, but in the same token, I would say suck it the fuck up, put it on for a week, and you're going to be fine.
And it's completely, there's no noise with it, right?
I mean, look, you'll feel the air obviously rush in, but I actually find it very soothing because I like white noise when I sleep. I have a fan on all the time, even in winter.
So the machine
it
makes some noise. Is that what you're saying? It makes
the
some
machine doesn't, but you'll kind of
you'll
you'll feel your breathing. Like you'll be.
So what's it doing exactly? It's pumping oxygen into your nostrils.
So when you breathe in, it's going to basically increase pressure so that your airway stays open. When you breathe out, the machine shuts off, which is really crucial because people think it just blows air at you.
People
No,
don't
it doesn't.
understand, Steve. When any of the strength athletes, we're talking about 160, 170 kilograms, 350, nearly 400 pounds. The sheer weight of muscle on your chest, you need a certain number of pillows to align your head because your shoulders are so fucking broad. Your chest and your
back. I had that problem for sure.
And then, as he says, obesity as well. The thick neck.
I had to get I had to buy a new pillow every month when I was running.
Here's a funny little tidbit. I actually sleep without a pillow because a pillow props my head up and my neck closes, so I don't actually use a pillow.
Wow. Okay.
I'm the other way. I wrap myself around pillows to keep myself in a certain position, and it helps me sleep. And
you have like one of those big teddy bears, right, Mobster? Yeah, one of those big teddy bears that you hug all night.
No. Let's get the 4 cats and I tie them up with string together and I wrap myself around the 4 cats. The fucking man coat. I just got a big pillow. You could even use a bolster, and it's about body alignment. But again, look, whether you're a muscular bodybuilder like Swcc or 180 kilogram strength athlete, the sheer size, muscle, plus the fact that we've grounded like motherfuckers in the gym, plus we're eating the food, plus we're doing all the other things that we do, all have an effect. And the benefits of, you and I have discussed this many times, the benefits of a good night's sleep, including growth hormone and tissue repair and recovery, etc., are so fucking important. And the number of people in society that are fucked because of their sleep and stress and never fully recovered, never fully energized is very high. It's one of those undiagnosed dirty little secrets. Tell us a little bit about Australia and the culture that we were touching upon in the pre-show. How the fuck are you dealing with 44 degrees right now?
Me personally, I absolutely fucking love the heat. I go for walks in this 44-degree shit. I love it. I fucking hate the cold. I'm a summer baby. You could give me a fucking 44-degree day any day over a less than 10-degree day. I would say that the culture here has changed massively in the past 10 years. Similar to what you were saying about why Australians are so much more, eating better and things like that, is because the culture here now is all about fitness. We're massive with it. We all live near beaches. Everyone wants to look good. Everyone's got a tattooed arm and a leg. People are in the gym. It's just exploded. So the fitness scene here is massive. People go for walks during the day just out of leisure. I don't know if people do that in the UK or the US. Probably not.
I do. I do.
People pay people to come walk their dogs every night. That's how it is in the US. We have the most gyms in the world, ironically.
I literally take nature walks to get my steps in. That's what I do every fucking day, twice a day, in fact.
So tell us a little bit about some of the weird things in Australia. Like, do you have like kangaroos?
What's the most crazy shit you come across with the snakes and the spiders?
Do you have like kangaroos?
You ever have fucking snakes in your toilet or a spider in your boots or something? That's fucked up.
I mean, look, in outback Australia, you're definitely going to find, snakes and shit like that. But for the most part, if you live in a populated city or something like that, you're not going to. Where I live is what we call like a country town. So it has all the development of a city, but it's also right on the border of like of just desert land, basically. So, kangaroos will be jumping around near the freeway. So that's one thing you need to look at in Australia is if you're driving on the freeway early in the morning, you need to watch the fuck out that a kangaroo doesn't come out and total your car, because that's certainly a thing. I've hit.
He doesn't know how to get out of the way.
The kangaroo.
Yeah, it's like a deer.
Kangaroos are fucking stupid animals. They just jump across the road and they don't
know how to jump out of the way when the car is.
No, but I mean they're so fast, man. Like they'll jump in one jump and they'll be from the side of the road to in front of you. They're very quick.
Okay.
And they weigh like 150, 200 pounds, Steve. The thing of it is, and I have to explain this, this is a nature thing again. They fucking live there. You're just passing through in your car or your truck. So as far as they're concerned, you're in their way. And that's the
Believe it
size
or
of their
not,
brain.
too, we eat a lot of kangaroo here too. I eat a
Yeah,
lot of kangaroo.
I've eaten it. It's all right, yeah.
It's very lean. It's like 2% fat. It's like the bison of Australia.
Mm.
Would you say a kangaroo is healthy compared to other meats like
Oh,
beef
yeah.
and chicken?
Yep, definitely, because they're still out in the wild because kangaroos aren't allowed to be farmed or anything like that. So they're
Okay.
eating, berries, nuts, fruits, all that kind of shit that you'd see in nature, leaves.
So it's
So
a
their
healthy
meat
option.
also has their meat also has a very nice like.
Gotcha.
I think it's like the healthy fat thing as whatever else, Steve.
Yep. So SW, we lost his internet. I guess in Australia, their internet is worse than your internet, Mobster. That's the one thing I have both of you guys beat on. So we're gonna
Yeah,
have
both
him
of
back
us.
again, but we're very blessed to
Yes,
have him on for a full hour on this
yes.
podcast. He's a wealth of knowledge, and he's still a
Mm.
young guy. He's gonna, I mean, my goodness, by the time he's like 35,
His
40,
potential,
45,
yeah.
he's gonna be extremely knowledgeable, even more than he is
Yeah.
now. So check him out on
Going
the
to be a
forum.
great coach. He's going to be a better coach than you already, Steve. And his potential for competition with a pro card is right up there, guys. Definitely check him out. Come and
Yeah.
check out his log. Check out the pictures that we're talking about.
All right. So we
Yeah. So
really
listen,
appreciate
guys.
you.
Listen, absolutely. Yeah. Listen, we want SWCC to come back on. We've had some great Australian guests on these shows. He's super fucking intelligent. Come onto the forums, check out his log, ask him some of the questions. He's a busy guy, but if he finds the time, you can see what he's doing. You can see how he's applying his knowledge. Let us know your thoughts on the show, listeners. And as always, please note, we are not doctors and the opinions are ours. It is our view based on our experience and views on the topic. A podcast for informational purposes and entertainment only. The freedom of speech and the First Amendment applies.